everybody. Welcome to the Guided Listening this week. I'm Jeff Antoniuk from Jazzwire, and we're going to listen to Kenny Wheeler. I don't know if you know about Kenny Wheeler, one of my all-time favorite improvisers, musicians, trumpet players, and the band is fantastic. It's Michael Brecker on the tenor saxophone, it's Jack DeJohnette on the drums, Dave Holland on bass, Mark Taylor, English piano player, Mark Taylor on the piano. Now, I grew up in Western Canada, and Kenny Wheeler kind of came through that area a fair amount, and he was really beloved in that part of the country, I suppose. Kenny Wheeler was originally a Canadian guy and spent a lot of time in England. I got to spend almost a month with Kenny Wheeler in the early 90s at a professional jazz camp in the Canadian Rockies. It was transformative for me. Man, I wish I could go back with my current knowledge and hang out with Kenny Wheeler for a month. Kenny, man, I'm not going to give you the big history lesson, and you could just kind of Google him right up. But Kenny played in Maynard Ferguson's big band, which I always found kind of mind-blowing. Kenny Wheeler was one of the great free, kind of 60s, 70s free players. So he had all that in his playing. There was this amazing sort of folkloric aspect to his playing. He wrote really great harmony. He was a fantastic writer, really one of my favorite writers of all time. He wrote for large ensembles, big band, he wrote small group. I can't say enough about Kenny. So I know some of you have been checking out Ornette Coleman because of one of my recent guided listenings, or Richard Perry, or, off the beaten track, Michael Brecker tracks or whatever. So I love sharing things with you that were meaningful and impactful to me. And, of course, I love hearing back like, wow, haven't heard this in a long time, or I've never heard of that person, and you like it or you don't like it. That's all great, right? But expanding our ears. So I'm excited to share this with you. It's an ECM recording. And Michael Brecker, I think this is probably the only time he and Kenny played together as I think about it. So, Brecker's this young American guy sort of brought into this session. So, he and Kenny are very different players, as you'll hear, but it's fun to hear the juxtaposition. I really think it works. This is a Kenny Wheeler composition called Double W. So the name of the album were the words double, and then U, double W. But the name of the song is the letter W, period, W. And Kenny used to do that a lot with his song titles, lots of sort of clever things and palindromes and all sorts of stuff. So, let's jump into it. One of the things, I love the structure of the tune. It's just a 16 measure song, and it really just has 4 chords in it. 2 measures of this, 2 measures of that, 2 measures of that, 2 measures of that. And how the song sort of gets going. I want to say that he repeats the song 4 times before we get into soloing. So let's check it out. You can hear what I mean. Kenny Wheeler. This beautiful composed call and response. That's halfway through the song. Fantastic harmonies. 2 voices. That's the end of the song. And the exact same thing, but with bass, drums, and piano. Wow, where those notes fit in the harmony. Incredible. What a beautiful tune. And these open sounds, it reminds me of Aaron Copland somehow, with all these fourths and fifths. That's the end of the song a second time. And now, the same thing. Going by fast. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4. Do it again, 4th time. And now they're playing together. Really genius. It doesn't sound boring. I'm not bored with hearing this a 4th time. Kenny. And that sound. Wow. Very personal. This beautiful sustained sound. And his high range. He does these great slurs up high. But then comes down very, very low. So dramatic. Lots of flurries. All right, so you're already hearing some of his Kennyisms. Very legato and beautiful, except for when he's not. So I said legato, but then we hear him do these short attacks. Right? So he mixes it up. It's great. And fantastic melodic lines mixed in with those kind of crazy flurries. And the band is really swinging and, boiling behind him. It's so great. Moments of really beautiful melody and motivic development, which he's a master at. Michael Brecker. And did you hear how Kenny ended his solo? Michael came in with the same line. Very slick. So a very different tone, Brecker different, as opposed to Kenny. Kenny has this very personal, that's not the way to put it. I don't know how to put it. Vulnerable sound maybe, and Brecker has this kind of firmer, harder, trained sort of sound. Now, what's the feel? Is this swing? Is it straight eights? Is the bass walking? Is JandJonJazz swinging? It's hard to tell. I'd say if we had to call it anything, it is swinging. It's coming from walking bass, but Dave is so able to move away from that. JandJonJazz is essentially playing a solo, right? Like he's all over the drum set, but the feel, the momentum is insanely moving forward. It's impossible to talk about. It defies any sort of analysis. Any drummer I ever mentioned Jack to, they're like, can't even talk about it. And I talked through Brecker's solo. There you go. I might go to hell for that. Dave Holland. Such a great foundational player, another English guy. But so much facility and so much ability to, play the bass standing beside Michael Brecker or anybody solo-wise and chops-wise. How Jack is playing so much softer, but still so interactive. So so many rhythmic things coming out of the texture, but it's not competing with Dave. And I'm sorry we don't get to hear a Mark Taylor piano solo on this particular track. What a great accompanist, and what a great bandmate with Kenny Wheeler. They recorded together a bunch. Mark Taylor, Kenny Wheeler. And this melody out, this is new material over the same chords. Just that expansive sound of these voicings, lots of fourths and fifths that Kenny Wheeler loved to use. And now we're back to the melody. So there's a cool little 16 measure interlude before the melody. And I love that ending, that surprising ending where the band is out and it ends with those two voices. All right, Kenny wanted to keep going there. Wow, what a great album. I had sort of a hard time picking, what I wanted to play for you from Kenny Wheeler. There's so much great stuff. There's a wonderful track from this album that I think is 14 minutes long, another that's 23 minutes long. It is worth the price of admission. And so many other albums. Kenny recorded on ECM, but lots of other labels. So there's a lot of Kenny Wheeler out there. And he's turned out to be really influential with a lot of composers, certainly sort of the European jazz scene. Kenny was huge. And we see and hear his influence through so much music. He's somebody that I started hearing young, before I had any clue what the heck he was doing, but just, the older musicians around me in Canada were checking out Kenny Wheeler, talking about Kenny Wheeler, studying with Kenny Wheeler. And so I heard this music and I really did love it, but I think it got into my head at that sort of early age. And when I hear it now, it's very emotional for me. And his writing and again, those fourths and how he plays these crazy intervals. And I've transcribed bits of Kenny Wheeler and tried to incorporate, some of the angularity, some of what he does. And somehow when I hear him do it, his tone and something about the context that he does that stuff in, it's awesome. And when I put it on the saxophone and, try to do it in my own setting, it's interesting, it's cool, it's angular, it's whatever, but it's just not that same thing, right? So it's like your favorite comedian tells a joke and you try to tell the same joke and it probably doesn't go over the same, right? So there's just so many other aspects to what's going on. So if you haven't heard any Kenny Wheeler before, I hope you enjoyed this and maybe we'll check out some other stuff. One thing I'll say is, at least on YouTube, ECM Records that Kenny used to do, lots of work on, isn't on YouTube. So you can't hear it there. So I'm sure other streaming services maybe have the ECM stuff. So, if you go look for some Kenny Wheeler, if you don't, find everything immediately, that's sort of what's going on. So Michael Brecker, so important for me as a young tenor player. Kenny Wheeler, Jack DeJohnette, love. I mean, it's just this, perfect super band to me. So hope you enjoyed it and hope that sort of expanded things for you. And I hope maybe you'll go and check out a little bit more Kenny Wheeler. Check out Music for Large and Small Ensembles. It was a double CD set on ECM, Kenny's big band writing. And so we get to hear that his amazing arranging and what he's doing with two voices there, how he did so much with two voices. Check out what he does with 15 voices. It's amazing. All right. Have a good time. Take care.